Let's get into it. Sold Not For Sale podcast. I just want to say right now, put your tinfoil Speedo on, okay? It's Joe Rogan, Tim Dillon. Put it the other way. It's Tim Dillon with Joe Rogan, okay? And in this conversation, they just start talking about Diddy and Epstein, as you do in 2024. You guys know that. And Joe actually throws something out there about Diddy allegedly throwing it out there, just tinfoil Speedo talk, saying that Diddy poisoned some people. He talks about how it's very odd that people got pneumonia around Diddy and then passed away from that. I did not expect Joe to bring this up. I guess Tim Dillon just brings that kind of thing out in him. And then I went on a little search because I'm like, let me find some clips that go with this. And then all of a sudden I found a clip of Donald Trump Jr. saying the same thing. Very odd stuff. Let's get right into it. I'll show you the Rogan clip first, and then we'll go over to Don Jr.
You know, these minerals, it's about, you know, keeping certain trade routes open to do business. And then the ideas are sold to you based on the needs of the people that are, you know, most people don't know what Burisma is.
Right.
Most people have no idea. But our whole policy in the Ukraine is probably revolving around things like that.
And probably most of our policy in the world.
Right.
And then there's weird ones, you know, like the Afghanistan opium connection. That's a weird one. That their production went up like 96%.
Right. Right.
As soon as we got in there, it's like, and then the reality was like, we were trying to say, we need to help these farmers guard their poppy fields so that they'll give us info on the Taliban.
Right.
How did that work out 20 years later? It really didn't. It really didn't work out. And then they were supplying most of the world's heroin. So most of the world's heroin was coming from a place where we were actually actively guarding. Do you ever see the Geraldo Rivera one?
Yes. Yes.
It's wild. Where
it's crazy.
He's kind of trying to gaslight people.
That's when he had his Fox News show, right?
Yeah. So he's walking around interviewing these people who are guarding these poppy fields, trying to find some sort of way to gaslight folks.
You gotta, if you're gonna do black projects all over the world and the Congress isn't gonna give you money, you need to find a way to make money.
And there's no better way to make money than illegal drugs.
Drugs are a great way to make money. Things a great way to make money. I mean, it's not, I'm not saying it's great, like morally great.
No.
But the intelligence community, there's these dark corners of the intelligence community that need money to operate and do the things they want. And it always seems like anytime there's a human trafficking thing going on or a drug thing, they always seem to be in the picture, the intelligence community. They're always like there. There's always like a guy that knows a guy who's an asset. It's never like they're nowhere near it.
Right.
They're always somewhere lurking around in that vicinity.
Now, isn't part of that their job?
Part of that is probably their job.
Right. Like if you're someone who's got an eye on national security and you want to make sure the terrorists aren't plotting anything, you kind of have to be a part of everything nefarious.
To a degree.
I mean, like, clearly, I'm devil's advocate.
For sure. Of course. And I think you're right. As Dick Cheney said, we have to work with the bad people.
Yeah,
thanks, Dick. Yeah, he goes, we got to work with some bad, like we weren't before. That was the funny thing. After 9/11, he's like, we got to work with some bad people. There's too much. We're just working with too many good people. We actually have to start working with some bad actors. And it was just like, everyone was like, that makes sense.
So I'm going to bring in my business partners.
Right. So I'm going to bring in my friends and family. But you're right. I think to an extent, there is an argument to be made that you have to have tentacles in these different things. Now, do you have to run blackmail operations with Jeffrey Epstein and P. Diddy?
Do you think the government was involved in the P. Diddy stuff?
1,000%.
Really?
I think they wanted to blackmail serious Hollywood people, serious music people, serious athletes. I think that Diddy opens up a different world than Epstein opened up. And I think if you want control over people in that world, there's startling similarities between Diddy and Epstein. And, you know, I mean, Diddy had the same head of security as Michael Jackson.
What does that mean?
Well,
was Michael Jackson in the government?
No, Michael Jackson has been credibly accused of inappropriate activities.
Oh, right.
And he had a security guard.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just an interesting connection.
But generally, like, people that specialize in top-level celebrities like that, they work in the same circles.
Yes, but those are two top,
Yeah, but I see that's what's interesting is, like, we didn't know about the Diddy thing until, look, I've been in Hollywood I was there for 25, 26 years or something like that. I didn't know about the Diddy parties.
No, I
mean,
think you
I've
have to get
seen
invited to
a
the
white party like on People magazine or something like that.
Well, I think it's just one of those things that like you're invited to, and you could go and show up there and stay for an hour, and it's all completely innocent. And then there are after parties or certain things.
Well, they would tell people,
Right.
you know, at midnight, you better go home, or
It gets wild.
Be prepared to freak off.
And there's targets. I think people, they want leverage on certain people.
Well, certainly if you have artists, right? Like say if you have an artist and he's the next Tupac,
Right.
And you imagine the amount of money a guy like that can generate. If you have some like super talented artist,
Right.
compromise.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's
now
right.
You got him.
And now you have him, and now he's got to kind of do what you want.
You know the Jimi Hendrix story?
No.
So Jimi Hendrix, one of his bodyguards, or one of bodyguards, like someone who was involved with him, wrote a book. And the book was essentially alleging that Jimi Hendrix was killed by his manager, who was a mobster, because Jimi Hendrix was about to leave his manager. And what happens with a lot of these artists is whoever's controlling them might have ownership in their titles, might have ownership in their music. And if you think someone's going to leave and you kill them, like now you have all their music and you essentially can keep selling it forever, especially someone like Hendrix. Like
Wow.
he's actually worth more to you dead
Than alive.
than if he leaves you and you're not making money from him anymore. He's worth more to you dead.
Well, there was that whole thing with Diddy and the Biggie shooting.
Well, also Diddy's exes,
Right.
like his ex, someone who knew his ex, they all died of pneumonia.
Right.
You can give someone, there's certain chemicals, poisons that you can give people and it results in pneumonia. You know, I don't know if these autopsies even check for that stuff.
Right. Probably not.
I don't know. I mean, what is it? Is it like cyanide? What is it, Jamie? That like, because we did Google this at one point in time, that there are certain poisons that you can give someone and they'll die like they died of pneumonia. And like a bunch of people around him died of pneumonia. That's a weird. I don't know anybody.
Hollywood will never recover from the last few, like the knowledge that a lot, and listen, there's so many talented people.
Here it is. Lung injury, renal failure, cyanide poisoning may also cause respiratory symptoms of bronchitis, lung edema, and pneumonia. You just give someone cyanide. And didn't one of his bodyguards say that they tried to poison him 3 times? There's like one of his bodyguards came out recently and he was doing some interview and said they tried to poison him.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of those claims in those interviews, but
Yeah.
I don't know if,
Who knows what's real?
It's hard to imagine that Hollywood recovers from just the slew of bad and truthful press.
So much went down.
So
where
much
people-
dark.
Also, just how stupid they are.
Right.
Like the Will Smith thing. When they gave him a standing ovation after that, this is so stupid. Like, what,
Right.
you guys don't think straight. This is
No.
you're thinking nutty.
It's a very isolating, strange place. And I've lived there on and off for a long time. Not long, but 4 or 5 years. But like I go, I do my sets. I have a few friends. It's not a place conducive to making friends. Everyone's
Well,
too far away.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. And
We used to have the store. That was the hub.
that was a hub of comedy.
Yeah,
and
that was where we would go.
yeah.
We would all. It was so good. Those years were
Yeah,
so good.
they were great years.
From 2014 to 2019, it was so good.
It was so good. Or you
Man, let's get into what he was talking about. Little fun fact about the Comedy Store that they're talking about. I went there one time. I was in LA. I got this tattoo. You see this one? This dark one here? Mexican dude, Mr. Memo called himself. Did that one at 3 a.m. And then after, or it was like 2 a.m., 1:30, I don't know. But then I went over to the Comedy Store. Me and my buddy John meeting up with my buddy Mike. And I'm like, all right, Comedy Store, here it is. And then on stage is Punky Johnson from Saturday Night Live. Back then, she was just a comedian. She wasn't on Saturday Night Live then. And it was the worst stand-up set I had ever seen in my entire life. It was so bad. And we were so confused on why it was so bad. And she looked me right in the eye. She's a black lady. He, her, I don't know, whatever. Lady, punky. She's a black punky. And looks me right in the eye and says, calls me the N-word, which is fine. We're both black. As you do. That's fine. None of it was funny. And it was the worst experience I've ever had at a comedy club. So that was my experience with Comedy Store. And then we left LA because we had to go. And the next day, not even 24 hours later, Dave Chappelle films his special there. Oh, well, good God. Ridiculous. So I missed that. I could have been there. Anyway, let's get into what they're talking about. We got Donald Trump Jr. here sitting with someone named DJ Academics. DJ Academics is like a hip hop guy. He covers hip hop news and whatnot. And I have no idea why they're both sitting together, but they are. And he talks about this.
For politics, like I used to get invited to the cool person parties. I was there.
Did you ever
right?
hear
like,
anything?
Not those parts. So not me directly, but it's my ex-wife actually she was a model in New York, and like she was really good friends with Kim Porter, who was Diddy's wife, the one who died at 47 from pneumonia. And I was like,
that's what they
when
said.
that happened, she called me, and this was a couple of years ago now, maybe not even, a couple of years ago, and she called me like something's up with that. I go, what do you mean? She's like, oh, dude, Kim used to tell me like. It was a bad, like, there's a lot of weird shit that I didn't even know that, like, but they were like, you know, they'd do photo shoots together or whatever. They were sort of friendly. Like, they'd hang out. Like, we'd see them out downtown and, like, I'd hang out with her. Not so much with, I think it was already sort of over there, but, like, she was really afraid of him. And
really?
Yeah. Like, this goes back years. And so, like, and she was having these conversations with my ex. I was like, I don't know what, like.
A lot of people believe that whatever happened there happened with the woman afterwards, which was Cassie. And supposedly.
No, like I said, like, you sort of don't think about these things until now. You go back and you're like, holy, like, I distinctly remember when Vanessa was like, calls me and was like, hey man, Kim Porter died. I go, what? Like, we saw her like a couple of weeks, whatever it was, you know, and she goes, yeah, man, she was sort of always in fear of something happening. And I was like, you know, maybe it's natural, but like, not a lot of people die at 47 of pneumonia. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, wow. Especially people who, you know, she's obviously in good shape.
There's a shit ton of rumors.
Again, and I'm actually not trying to fuel any kind of rumor, but I definitely, like, that's a conversation I had. Like, you know, someone who knew her well, you know, was like friend, like they text, like, was like,
something.
She was like, she's like, something. She did not believe that was just natural.
Very, very interesting stuff that his ex did not believe it was natural. Don Jr. just lighting it up there. You know what? This has been talked about for a very long time, but it used to just get talked about by guys like me, channels way smaller than what my channel's grown to now. And now it's like Donald Trump Jr. is like, yeah, I remember. It was really weird. She was really scared of him. I don't know. Some weird stuff. 47, pneumonia. Like, nobody was saying that before. Joe Rogan's like, a lot of people died of pneumonia around this guy. It's like, whew. This is... And you know what? That would be the way. You know? Not saying that it happened. I'm just saying that would be a smart way, because... do they even look into that, like Joe said? Do they? If you're seeing signs of pneumonia, and it's very apparent that you're seeing signs of pneumonia and the person passed away from that, would you look deeper? Would you look for an ulterior, not even I was going to say ulterior motive, but not even that. You'd be looking for a different cause when the cause is directly in front of you. That's like seeing someone with a fatal wound and being like, well, let me look into some other stuff here. I don't know. Like, what would give cause for that? And if somebody who's reporting this to you, or it's someone's wife and they're very rich and famous, do things change? I mean, when you're rich and famous, it seems like you're treated different in every other avenue. You're treated different at restaurants, clothing companies, you know? You're treated very at clubs. You're treated very different. Maybe in that situation be treated differently as well. I don't know. The beautiful Britney Murphy. Listen to this.
Thing that's really suspicious with Britney Murphy's death is she had the same coroner as Kim Porter. His name was Ed Winters, and he also did Paul Walker's, Whitney Houston's, Tom Petty's, and Michael Jackson's autopsies. He ended up dying before Kim Porter's second autopsy.
The coroner did?
The coroner died between Kim Porter's first and second autopsies.
Super weird.
Yeah, it's super, super weird. Thing that's really...
It's super, super, super weird. Again, very, very odd. just go through the list again. Paul Walker, Diddy's wife, Whitney Houston, all people who died under mysterious circumstances. Now, I know for some of you might be like, Petty and Paul Walker, it wasn't mysterious and blah, blah, blah. Well, look into it some more, and it is kind of mysterious. And it is kind of at odd timings of their life, Paul Walker was kind of getting into a world of like Sound of Freedom-ish. You know that movie? I don't want to go into it too much, but you know what that movie's about. He's kind of getting into that stage of his life and wanting to, help in that way, stop that type of stuff. And then all of a sudden, this happens to him. When it came to Kim, she had a tell-all book that was coming out about Diddy and the people surrounding him. Whitney Houston, she was just a very vocal person and a little bit could not be controlled because of past drug use, could not be controlled. Michael Jackson, same thing. Not due to drug use, but he was just very open. He's like, Sony, I did good business, and now Sony's after me. That's all he would say. He's like, I did good business. They're mad that I did good business. They're coming after me. He was very open about it. And Britney Murphy, same thing. She was very vocal around the time of her passing as well. All had the same coroner. Now, again, like I said, are things different for you when you're rich and famous and you're looking at a coroner and you're like, hey, I guess it's just pneumonia, huh? Huh, big guy? And he's just like, yeah, I know the drill. It's fine. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Again, we're all wearing tinfoil Speedos here. If you came here in slacks, get out, okay? Get out with your slacks and your belt. We're wearing tinfoil Speedos right now. I don't know. I think that anything's possible. And could Diddy have been involved with a larger entity? Very possible. They touched on Jimi Hendrix and the way that he passed away. It was also very odd, like one of these people. I covered this. I have a video about it. And, there's just a lot of wine found in his lungs. Like just a crazy amount of wine inside of him, like so much that you couldn't imagine someone drinking that much. It was pretty wild. And then when you actually look into Jimmy's manager, and here's the thing, when it comes to a Diddy list, an Epstein list, all this stuff, it's like, how long has this been going on? Well, you'd think a long time, especially when you look into Hollywood in general. You'd be like, oh, this has been going on since the beginning. Like, why wouldn't it have been going on? There was no need to control people back in the day? What? There was no thirst for money and power back in the day? Just not true. Of course there was. Of course you needed people to say certain things, do certain things, stay in line. So maybe this is just how it's always been. There's one thing I always say to a good comedian friend of mine, Kevin Soldo. Big shout out to him. Big inspiration in my life. I always say when we're talking about Hollywood, I'm like, man, there's no more people to look up to. The more you find out about what's going on, there's no more people to look up to. It's an odd thing. Because when you're younger, you think you can look up to all of them. But then you slowly start to learn what they actually are. I always say they're like pets. Not your pets or my pets, but like somebody's pets. Some ultra rich person, executive, producer, maybe just super rich beyond all that. They're like pets. They're just being kept. You can't see their leashes. Their leashes are their giant houses and their big contracts and their thirst for that next movie deal. All of those things combined act as a leash. And the people that hold that leash are their managers and their assistants. And they're just being wrangled around, led around just like that. And that's not something to look up to, Anyways, guys, like, subscribe, turn on the notifications, and in regards to what you just saw, think about it. I'm out.